Hey everyone, ready to dive into something kind of wild?
I know I am.
We're looking at a potential breakthrough treatment for PTSD,
Oh, yeah.
and it's gotten some buzz,
Literally.
literally. It's called hyperbaric oxygen therapy,
HBOT.
HBOT for short.
Yay.
You probably have heard of this in connection with scuba diving,
Mm-hmm.
but it's showing some really, really incredible promise for treating PTSD,
Yeah.
even in cases where nothing else has worked.
Wow.
I know, right?
Yeah.
We're basing this deep dive on a CBS News report that aired actually just last week,
Okay.
November 10th, 2024.
Got it.
And let me tell you, some seriously eye-opening stuff.
You know, it's remarkable how this treatment has been around for decades.
Yeah.
That it's being used in this totally new way.
Right.
And it's not just like a tiny research lab somewhere.
Yeah.
This report takes us inside the Sagol Center
Oh, wow.
for hyperbaric medicine and research in Israel.
Okay.
It's the biggest facility of its kind in the whole world.
Wow.
And they're treating hundreds of patients with PTSD, including survivors of that horrible attack at the music festival
Oh, right?
on October 7th
Yeah.
and military veterans.
I can't even imagine
Yeah.
the things they've seen.
Yeah, it's
So the scale of what they're doing at the Sagol Center is just mind-boggling.
absolutely.
But I think before we get ahead of ourselves,
Sure.
let's break down, like, the basics.
Yeah.
What exactly is HBOT?
Right.
And how does it even work?
So imagine this. You're
Mhm.
just chilling in this pressurized chamber,
Like a button.
kind of like a mini submarine,
Okay.
breathing pure oxygen.
Wow.
It's like a deep dive, but you don't get wet.
That's amazing.
And the science behind why this could work for PTSD is fascinating.
I bet.
They carefully change the oxygen levels,
Okay.
and it kind of jumpstarts your brain's natural healing.
Okay.
It actually can help grow new neurons and blood vessels.
Wait, new brain cells?
Yeah.
That sounds like sci-fi.
I know, right?
That's wild.
It's pretty remarkable, yeah.
So think of it like this.
It's trauma. It's like a glitch in your brain's wiring.
Okay.
And HBOT is like running a repair program
Oh, I like that.
to like restore it back to the original.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, I'm starting to get why this is getting so much attention.
Yeah.
The CBS report highlights this guy, Shachar Mizrahi.
Yeah.
He's an IDF veteran,
Right.
and this guy was on the verge of suicide,
Wow.
haunted by the 2014 Gaza conflict.
Right.
He had tried everything, therapy, medication.
Nothing worked.
Nothing seemed to work.
Ooh.
HBOT was like his last hope.
Wow.
Shachar's story is a testament to the power of this therapy.
I think so.
Before HBOT, he was barely functioning, constantly on edge, no sleep.
Yeah.
After the treatment, she felt like he was alive again.
Wow.
Can you imagine being able to just sleep
you?
through the night
Yeah.
for the first time in years?
For the first time in years, yeah.
Feeling that sense of peace you thought was gone forever?
Yeah.
That's what HBOT is doing.
That's amazing.
That's incredible. Yeah. The report actually showed his brain scans before and after, right?
Yeah, and the changes are striking.
Really?
The areas of his brain that are responsible for regulating emotions
Look,
and processing information were literally lighting up
no way.
after the therapy.
Like you could see it.
Yeah, like watching his brain heal in real time.
Wow.
It's really something.
Talk about visual evidence.
Yeah.
So it's not just that Shachar felt better.
Right.
There's actual physical evidence
Physical evidence
of
that-
his brain healing.
That's powerful.
But this is just one guy.
Sure.
What about like scientific evidence to back this up?
Well, the researchers at Sagol, they're not just relying on anecdotes.
Okay.
They've done studies specifically on veterans with PTSD.
Okay.
One study found that 68%
68%?
of patients showed huge improvement in their symptoms
Wow.
after HBOT.
That's a lot.
And get this,
Yep.
another study
Huh.
found that the good stuff, like
Well.
the remission of PTSD symptoms, lasted at least 2 years after treatment.
2 years.
At least 2 years.
That's incredible.
That's longer than most established PTSD treatments.
Wow. You'd think the medical world would be going nuts over this.
You'd think, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It is causing a stir.
Yeah.
But there is still a lot of debate
I bet.
and caution around HBOT for PTSD.
Okay.
Some experts are kind of hesitant.
Yeah.
They're calling for more research.
Okay.
And as you can imagine, insurance companies aren't really jumping to cover it.
Yeah, I can kind of understand the skepticism, right? It's
Yeah.
like such a radical change.
Totally different approach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
From the traditional approaches to PTSD.
right,
But if it's helping people like Shachar,
right.
why isn't it more widespread?
Good question.
What's the holdup?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's a few hurdles
Okay.
that we need to overcome.
Okay.
First, to really solidify HBOT's place in PTSD treatment.
Yeah.
We need bigger, more rigorous studies.
So like more data
Exactly.
to convince the skeptics.
That's it.
Okay.
And that brings us to the second big hurdle.
Wait, God.
Funding.
Oh, of course.
Big clinical trials are expensive.
Yeah.
And getting the money for those has been a challenge.
Yeah, and I imagine the treatment itself is not cheap.
You're right, it's a big factor.
Yeah.
In the U.S., a full course of treatment can cost over $50,000 out of pocket.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a huge barrier for people who desperately need this.
For sure.
This raises a really big question.
Okay.
If this therapy could be life-changing for people with PTSD, can we afford to wait years
Right.
for more research while they suffer?
Yeah, it's tricky.
It's a tough ethical problem.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah.
And actually, the CBS report goes even deeper into this
Yeah.
through another PTSD survivor.
Okay.
Do you remember Edith Negrin?
Yeah, the woman from the music festival attack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Her story was just heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
Well, she's undergoing HBOT at the Sagol Center right now.
Oh, wow.
They're offering it for free
Wow.
to survivors of that attack
That's amazing.
because they recognize how much trauma they endured.
Yeah, absolutely.
Edith's journey gives us this really powerful window
Yeah.
into the potential and the challenges
Right.
of HBOT for PTSD.
Yeah, it's a really interesting case.
I'm super curious to hear more about her experience.
Let's dive into her story next.
Okay.
And see what we can learn about this groundbreaking treatment.
Sounds good to me.
Awesome.
Let's do it. So let's talk about Edie.
Okay.
The CBS report really captured the raw emotion of her experience at the festival.
It really did.
Can you remind us, like, what actually happened to her that night?
It's hard to even imagine
Yeah.
what she went through.
I know.
She was right there in the middle of it.
Oh, wow.
She saw the terrorists, heard the gunshots,
Oh, my God.
had to run for her life.
Oh, wow.
Not knowing if she'd make it out alive.
Right.
That kind of trauma.
Yeah.
Most of us,
Thankfully,
will never, ever experience.
the report mentioned that she was waking up every night
Oh, yeah.
around 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
screaming, sweating, shaking.
It's awful.
She even talked about feeling like she was going crazy.
Right.
It's heartbreaking
It is.
to think about what those survivors are going through.
Absolutely.
That feeling of constant fear, reliving the trauma as if it's happening all over again.
Right.
That's like a classic PTSD symptom.
Yeah. Textbook.
It can be debilitating,
It can.
making it impossible to just live a normal life.
Right. Like you said, it just takes over.
It sounds like she tried everything
Yeah.
to cope with her PTSD,
Everything.
but nothing worked.
Yeah.
Was HBOT like a last resort for her?
You could say that.
Like it was for Shachar?
Remember, the Sagol Center is offering it for free
Oh,
for the survivors
Yeah.
of the festival
Yeah.
attack. They recognize the huge need for support there.
Of course.
So it did decided to try it.
Okay.
And the CBS report caught up with her
Okay.
about 2/3 through her 60-session treatment course.
60 sessions.
60 sessions.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's intense.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay.
Did it seem like the HBOT was helping?
Well, the report didn't give a definitive answer,
Okay.
but there were signs of hope.
Okay.
She was still wearing that necklace.
Right, with the festival logo,
Yeah.
a constant reminder.
A constant reminder.
Yeah.
But there was a strength about her,
Okay.
a sense of resilience that wasn't there before.
Okay.
She talked about how the HBOT was giving her hope
Okay.
for the future, a belief that she might actually be able to move on
Wow.
from this horrible experience.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Even in the face of such trauma, she's holding on to hope.
It's amazing.
It really shows the strength of the human spirit,
I think so.
the will to survive,
Yeah.
to heal.
It's incredible.
Her story, Shakar's story,
Yeah.
and this groundbreaking research at Sagol. It brings up a really important point
Okay.
about how we think about PTSD
Okay.
as a society.
Okay.
We often think of it as like a purely psychological issue,
Yeah.
but the science behind HBOT is showing us there's a strong biological connection.
Absolutely.
So trauma doesn't just affect our minds.
Right.
It changes our brains physically.
Literally rewires it.
Wow.
If trauma can do that,
Okay.
then it makes sense that a physical treatment
Right.
like HBOT could maybe reverse those changes.
Like hitting the reset button
Yeah, exactly.
on the brain's circuitry.
Yeah, like rebooting a computer.
Okay, so instead of just managing symptoms, HBOT could be healing the damage
The root cause.
caused by trauma.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Dr. Fradi, who leads the research at Sagol, he's really passionate about this.
Okay.
He believes we need to treat PTSD with the same urgency as other brain injuries.
Right, like it's a real physical injury,
Exactly.
not just something in your head.
He sees HBOT as a crucial tool,
Yeah.
a way to not just cope with PTSD,
Yeah.
but to actually heal from it.
This is like a total paradigm shift
It really is.
in how we think about PTSD.
Yeah, it could have huge implications,
Right.
not just for veterans or survivors of traumatic events, but for anyone.
Anyone with PTSD?
Struggling with it from any cause,
Yeah.
if it's as effective as the research suggests,
Yeah.
it could completely change how we treat PTSD.
It would be revolutionary.
Absolutely.
But as we talked about,
Yeah.
there are still those obstacles,
Right.
funding,
Yeah.
the skepticism.
Some people just aren't convinced.
Right, and the cost.
That's a big one.
It's frustrating
It is.
because the research is promising,
It is, yeah.
but it's not moving fast enough
I agree.
for the people who need it right now.
It's a tough balance
Yeah.
between being careful and scientific and the urgent need to help people who are suffering.
It is.
And that's where Congressman Murphy's push
Yeah.
for a VA pilot study is so important.
It could really make a difference.
It could.
It could pave the way for more veterans to access this,
Yeah,
potentially life-saving therapy.
absolutely.
And, we have to acknowledge the doctors who are already using this,
Absolutely.
even without widespread support.
They're pioneers.
They are.
They're seeing good results,
Yeah.
but they are really struggling to get funding
Yeah.
for those bigger studies
Right.
to really prove that it works.
It's a catch-22, right?
It is, yeah.
Without the big studies,
Yeah.
it's hard to get insurance to pay.
Right.
And without
We
insurance,
can't afford the research.
you can't get the funding for the research.
It's a tough cycle to break.
Yeah. It all boils down to one question.
Okay.
If this treatment can save lives,
Yeah.
why are we making it so hard to get?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need to look at what really matters. As a society,
Right.
recognize how devastating PTSD is
Right.
and commit to finding real solutions,
Absolutely.
even if they're different.
Even if they're challenging the way things are done now.
We have to be open to new ideas.
Yeah. It's about putting people's well-being first.
Absolutely.
But that's a conversation for another time,
Right.
I think, right now.
Yeah.
It's important to focus on the people
Yeah.
at the heart of this.
Human stories.
Yeah, Shachar finding relief.
Yeah.
And Idit holding on to hope.
They're the reason this matters.
Their stories make this debate so personal
They do.
and so urgent.
Absolutely.
It's easy to get lost in the science, but we can't forget
Yeah.
that there are real people
Real people suffering.
whose lives are on hold.
Their stories deserve to be heard,
Yes, they do.
and their struggles need answers.
We do.
We can't forget that.
So where do we go from here?
Well, let's look at something else about HBOT.
Okay.
It's not just about healing the mind. It's also about the body.
Oh, interesting.
PTSD can show up in physical ways, too.
Right.
And HBOT might be able to help with that, too.
Tell me more about that.
Okay, so think about chronic pain,
Okay.
headaches, even stomach problems.
Wow.
HBOT might be able to help with all of that.
So it's not just rewiring the brain.
Right.
It's healing the whole body.
The way it works is by giving the body tons of oxygen,
Okay.
which can help reduce inflammation,
Okay.
promote tissue repair,
Wow.
and even help new blood vessels grow.
That's amazing.
And this is helpful for all sorts of things,
Wow.
not just PTSD.
It's like HBOT is tackling PTSD from all sides,
That's a good way to put it.
addressing the root causes
Yeah.
instead of just masking the symptoms.
And there's even evidence that it can help with sleep,
Really?
reduce anxiety,
Wow.
and boost your brain power,
That's incredible.
all areas that PTSD affects.
It's like a miracle cure.
We've come a long way,
We have
from scuba divers
to brain repair.
to pain relief.
All in one deep dive.
I love it.
But I have to ask,
Yeah.
with all these benefits,
Mm-hmm.
why isn't HBOT everywhere?
That is the question.
Yeah.
We still have work to do.
Like what?
More research is needed
Okay.
to prove it works
Okay.
and to convince the doctors.
Ah.
And then there's the cost
Right.
and insurance.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Those are big barriers.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of doctors and scientists who are really passionate about HBOT,
Okay.
and they're working hard to make it more accessible.
That's good.
Congressman Murphy's work
Yeah.
to get that VA pilot study going
Yeah.
is a big step in the right direction.
I hope it works out.
It's inspiring to see people fighting for this.
Yeah.
They see how HBOT can change lives.
It gives me hope.
It reminds us that even when things are tough,
Yeah.
there's always hope.
The stories of Shatar and Idit,
Yeah.
they really show us that.
Even in the darkest times,
Yeah.
healing is possible.
It is.
One of the most promising areas is with traumatic brain injuries,
Oh, okay.
which often go along with PTSD.
Right, especially with veterans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
HBOT can actually help reduce swelling in the brain,
Oh, wow.
improve blood flow,
Okay.
and even help repair damaged tissue.
So it's like giving the brain a boost
Yeah.
to recover from trauma.
Exactly. And
Right.
it's not just the brain.
Really?
HBOT can also help with chronic pain,
Okay.
like fibromyalgia and migraines.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people with PTSD also have chronic pain.
Right.
So HBOT could potentially treat both.
So it's tackling PTSD from all these different angles.
Yeah, hitting it from all sides.
Wow.
Instead of just covering up the symptoms.
Right, treating the root of the problem.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
There's even evidence that HBOT can help people sleep better,
Really?
reduce anxiety,
Wow.
and improve brain function.
That's incredible.
All things that PTSD affects.
It's like a miracle treatment.
We've come a long way.
We have.
From scuba divers
To brain healing.
to pain relief.
All in one deep dive.
I love it.
But with all these benefits,
Yeah,
why isn't HBOT more widely used?
that's the big question.
It is.
As we said before, there are still some hurdles.
Right, like the research.
Yes, more research is needed
Okay.
to really prove it works.
To convince the doubters.
Exactly.
Right.
And of course, there's the cost
Right.
and insurance coverage.
Which are huge barriers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of doctors and researchers
Yeah.
who are really passionate about HBOT.
Right?
And they're working hard to make it more available.
That's good to hear.
Congressman Murphy's efforts to get that VA study going
Right.
are a big step in the right direction.
It's inspiring to see people fighting for this.
It is.
They see how it can change lives. This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening.
It has.
We've explored the science behind HBOT,
We have.
heard inspiring stories of recovery,
Definitely.
and talked about the challenges that still exist.
We've covered a lot.
But I think it's safe to say that HBOT gives us hope
Absolutely.
for people with PTSD.
It's a potential game changer.
It really is.
And it's not just about treating the mental and emotional side of it.
Right. It's about the physical impact, too.
Exactly.
Like those brain injuries
Yeah.
and chronic pain.
HBOT has the potential to heal the whole person.
It's a more complete approach.
Absolutely.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Right.
what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think the main message is this.
Yeah,
HBOT offers real hope for people struggling with PTSD.
it does.
It could change everything about how we treat this condition.
And while we need more research,
Mhm.
the early results are incredible.
Mm.
And we can't forget that it's not just about treating the mental and emotional symptoms.
Mhm.
It's about addressing the physical effects, too.
The whole picture.
Exactly.
HBOT can heal both the mind and the body.
It's a much more holistic approach.
It is.
So here's a final thought for our listeners.
Okay.
If you or someone you know is struggling with PTSD,
Yeah.
would you consider HBOT?
It's a question worth thinking about.
Even if it's not widely accepted yet?
Sometimes the best solutions are the ones that challenge the status quo.
And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose hope,
Well said.
even if it comes in an unexpected form.
I agree.
That's it for our deep dive into HBOT and PTSD.
It's been a great conversation.
Until next time, keep diving deep
Stay curious.
and never stop searching for those answers that matter.